Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pit Stop Pals, all part of the Nielson Media Cool Bet Network. Dustin Nielson, Nielson Gage with you. Episode 20 of the Pit Stop Pals, a recap of the Singapore Grand Prix, and there is a lot to discuss. We will get to your Mobile One Mr. Lube Pit Stop Pals podium. That's coming up here as we work our way through this episode. But Gage, haven't had the Singapore Grand Prix for the last couple of years. Nice to see it back. I was laughing as you saw a bunch of these Singapore GP rookies just get knocked out of the race, because it's like when I play on the video game, Singapore Grand Prix, especially at a higher level, impossible to finish. So I totally understand where those guys are coming from.
It was, I looked forward to it basically because of the Drive to Survive series, Dusty, like knowing that this is a tough circuit to race on. Mostly comes down to how you do in qualifying, but a night race, it was great. It was a little bit tough with my new puppy to try to watch this race. He was a little bit of he was a prick for the first part of the race. Let's just put it that way, till I wore him out and I could finally focus in.
Yeah, well, that's good. We all had distractions. I had a little bit of a late start to it. I had two kids. Marshall wanted me to throw him the football the entire time, kind of like your puppy. It's the same type of thing. I was just like, damn, man, same thing. But I'm throwing footballs. I'm just like, come on, get tired out. Then then the PVR didn't record correctly, so I flipped over F1 TV. Then I had to take both kids to hockey. I didn't end up finishing this race till like 2 o'clock this afternoon. Well worth the wait, and it's funny to say that because this was not a race full of just straight up overtakes. I mean, we had guys going on the wall, allowed guys to pass, but still overall, buddy, I was very entertained by this Singapore GP.
I think the whole weekend was entertaining, really, Dusty. Like from the qualifying and we were joking before just about how Red Bull kind of acting like Ferrari in Q3 with Max not having enough fuel to finish, and they and probably sitting on pole at that point, right? On his second lap, he was cooking. I think he was 2 seconds ahead at some point, but and then all this other stuff that's coming out with two teams supposedly over the cap, right? So we had a lot of things coming into this race, like, oh, what's going to happen? Is Max going to have points taken away? Like the two teams supposedly are Aston Martin and Red Bull that are over the cap. We don't know there's. I looked at those rules where if you're 5% over the cap, there's a certain set of rules, and then if you're over that 5% of more of that, then it's even more so. But they're kind of the same rules. It's but I think we'll find out what happens there Wednesday. So that had just added. It was just a little bit of seasoning before the actual race, and it was unbelievable to have the wet conditions and then the delay and I mean I got up, Dusty, you know me.
Let's talk about this delay. Yeah, you were up an hour before the delay.
I was up anyways, and I went in and I go, this is a delay, and at first I was a little bit excited. I go, oh, I can grab a couple extra Z's before the race, but the puppy, it just doesn't work out that way. But then I was like, oh my god, there better be a race. Like I can't go another week without a race here. And then hearing like a lot of the broadcasters saying, well, why do they have wet tires? Like they're built for those conditions. That's what they're for. And then to just delay, and then everyone just wait until it was like essentially Inter's ready, the track. I didn't understand that. I wanted to see the wet tires because there's a whole
if you weren't going to use them today, when are you ever going to use your wet set? Like,
didn't it was the perfect window for the wet tires today. And to see, because there's certain guys that drive better in wet conditions. Like we hear about Lance Stroll's ability to drive in the wet is a lot better than a lot of other people. But I was hoping to see that. Great race anyways.
Before we get to our Mobile One Mr. Lube podium here, Gage, you talked about the new puppy on Two Guys and the Goalie as well. And you named the puppy Boone, right?
Yeah.
I thought, if you were ever going to name an animal after an F1 driver, an F1, like this, I'm a little surprised you didn't name your dog Vettel or something like that. Like, what do you think would be the best puppy name coming out of Formula One? Pirelli.
Oh,
There's a
gosh.
good name for a
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah,
Come here,
just
Pirelli.
yeah, that would be a good one. You know what? Now I'm kicking myself, but
Yeah.
really the name change, the naming of the family pet, it doesn't fall on me, Dusty.
That's true.
I actually went with Odin. I thought just
Ooh,
yeah,
father of
going
Thor.
yeah, so I thought that would be cool, but I got vetoed. The power of veto is strong in my household.
That's what happens with dads, I guess, right? I had to go to Costco today. You think I wanted to do that? It's the same type of thing. All right, let's get into your Mobile One, Mr. Lube podium. Lots of things to discuss coming out of the Singapore Grand Prix. Remember, have your Mobile One synthetic oil change completed at Mr. Lube. Same day oil change and tire service. No appointment necessary. Swing in. They'll get you taken care of at Mr. Lube using that Mobile One synthetic oil. It doesn't just keep your vehicle running. It keeps your engine running like new. Mobile One. That's the official oil sponsor of the Pit Stop Pals, which still sounds hilarious to say. We'll give you a chance to win one of these hats and a gift certificate from Mr. Lube as well. A little trivia a little bit later on. But let's start at the top of the podium, and that's with Checo. Start to finish. I think, what was it said? Anytime he's led 15 laps in a race, he's gone on to win it so far, and does it again. Was certainly tested. Looked like things might be falling apart, actually, but in the end, man, you moved on it quick right at the beginning and never looked back.
Unreal start, got the lead, and yeah, like you said, never looked back. I mean, there was a lot of other things happening in this race that we didn't get to, but I think when they finally figured that, oh, we don't have enough time to finish this race, and it went down to the counter call. I think it was like 23 minutes left, and it just focused on the battle between Charles Leclerc and Checo Perez. That was some of the most entertaining racing that I think we've had all season long, Dusty. Like, to see him really battle that Ferrari, and he was just right up on him the whole time, and just a masterful job of, what do they call him? The Ministry of Defense, right? It was a spectacular job by Checo, and just over the last few races, not doing as well, and it seemed like the car, he couldn't get a handle on the car. To see him do so well, he's one of my favorite drivers. He's unbelievable. But then to the added little seasoning into that was he during the safety car he made a mistake, and there could have been a penalty, right? So both on the radios they both hear, well, he could stay within 5 seconds. Oh, you gotta move ahead 5 seconds, and Checo just outperforms Charles Leclerc at that point and just pulls away. Gets that, I think it ended up to be about a 7 or 8 second gap by the end of it. Awesome job. And he's got the penalty at the end. Like, he was assessed a penalty, which I made it a little bit easier for the stewards, I think, to just give it to him.
Yeah, when he's up by 7.5.
Yeah, like that, he made it easy for them to do that. But yeah, Checo, driver of the day, just unbelievable job. Good to see him. And kind of still, well, he's still in the hunt for the championship here. Who knows what happens?
Red Bull's going to put all of their resources into Checo, unless, of course, they're over budget. I mean, we'll see how that sorts itself out. Yeah, no, Nick, you mentioned, I mean, you heard the 5 seconds. What happened there? Because, like, Leclerc was within, like, 0.4 seconds. He pushed up on him a couple of times. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, boom, see you later, race over. I don't know if it was Leclerc fading away or if Checo just put the pedal down, but I was expecting them to remain a little bit tighter, a lot deeper into that race.
When you look at it, and the places where Charles could, like, make a lunge or make a opportunity to pass, there are those wet sections, and we saw Max blow by into the runoff area. We saw Hamilton make a huge mistake too. We saw, well, Latifi being Latifi with things, but I mean, it was tough. And Charles was like, okay, well, Max is a little bit further back, and just not willing to
just take those points. Yeah, I see.
I think he was more in line to just, you know what, I'll take these if the chance presents itself, for sure. But he wasn't willing to do what I don't think Max did for the most part, trying to move up spots. Max is one of the most aggressive and fun drivers to watch, because he'll try anything to get past a guy. I think Max should start 15th every race, because he's all entertainment on four wheels.
All right, so Checo top spot on the podium. Let's get down to the second spot, and we'll talk a little bit about Lewis and Max here together. They both ended up going off the track at one point. Lewis, it ended up costing him because when he went in, he had to get the new front wing on, which obviously was going to kill a good 12, 13 seconds in that situation. He spent a good portion of the early part of the race, first of all, bitching about the tires. He wanted to be on wets, and the way they laid it out on the thing is that the team was just like, no, everybody else is on the intermediates. We got to be on intermediates like everybody else. 7 laps in, Lewis is sitting there going, I told you I was right about these tires. He was not happy there. And then for a good chunk of the race, he was bitching about how slow Carlos Sainz was in front of him. And I was just like, well, if he's that slow, find a way to pass him. Okay? Simple enough. You're on his ass most of the race. And it's true. Like Carlos Sainz sitting there and kind of had the most boring third place finish you're going to see. Fell behind, way behind, early, and then kind of just sat back and held on, Gage. So I could see why Lewis would be frustrated there because Sainz just didn't even have close to the pace of those top 2 cars.
Yeah, and I think it was another kind of, I think Mercedes wants to try to finish second here, and Lewis he made some aggressive moves later on, but he couldn't get past. They all said this is a tough track to overtake on, right? But just not willing to take those chances and those risks. It was funny how the track kind of acted, Dusty, because when you looked at in qualifying, it seemed like the track got dry quite quick, right? And so it just seemed wet the whole time. Like you couldn't even see. There was a point where Alonso was, I think it was because of a night race and the glare on the track, he couldn't see the dry line, and he was actually asking the pit wall, can you see the dry line? And they couldn't either. So really weird that
that is weird
that they couldn't see that he couldn't see that line. And we'll get to it, but Alpine, very disappointing weekend for them, to a couple DNFs there, and having McLaren move up with unbelievable for Norris and Ricciardo.
Yeah, great day for them, and we'll continue with that here in the third spot. Let's tie Max in here with Lewis a little bit as well. For a while there, they were kind of close. How do we? It doesn't mean anything. Max is still going to track it down. He's still going to win it. I don't mind poopy pants Max every once in a while when things don't go his way, and it's got to be a little frustrating. But overall, what do you think of his day? Like, where do we come out on? Tough in qualifying, tough here, not meant to be. Like.
Yeah, it wasn't a good weekend for Max. I think you're going to have those, right? But not
very often.
Not very often at all. Like, but it was great to see them kind of come together. I loved when kind of Lewis goes into the wall there, comes out ahead of Max.
That was great.
Right
Somehow he split them, and they were close together anyway.
Yeah, and
that was
just
good
to see that kind of battle again in a night race. It was just flashbacks to the last race last year, right? And to see them, I love it when they battle because they obviously just hate each other.
Yeah,
like, they just can't stand each, and I love it. I like you said, Poopy Pants Max is great because when things are going good, it's all calm, Max, but one little thing gets in a pebble in Max's shoe.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
it. He's losing it on the whole team. So
I could see him like finishing up today, walking by and just being like, "Nice race, Checo," and just moving on. Like that's it.
I'm gonna win the championship next weekend, but nice race.
All right, third spot on our Mobile One Mr. Lou Pit Stop Pals podium. I guess we can lead with McLaren, but overall the constructor standings a little bit further down, getting a little bit interesting here. How about Danny Ricciardo? So I'm watching this and I'm seeing him kind of slowly move up, and then he's sitting there. I'm like, how in the world did Daniel Ricciardo move up 11 spots or whatever it was in the 10 spots in this race? And Lando, he hung in there tight, was pushed a little bit from the back, managed to hang on. Not a bad day for McLaren.
Lando's, I'd love to see him in some good equipment. I think like he's done some pretty good things in that McLaren car, and over the past 2 months with what's going on with Daniel Ricciardo, I was happy to see him do have a good result for today. Like it was awesome. He's been through kind of the ringer here. They're talking about what his next does he have a seat for next year? There's rumors he's going on sabbatical and going to try to come back. To me, I don't know how that works. Like to have a subpar years back to back to back, and then think you're just going to come back in a year. I don't know how that would work with him, but good to see him to do well, get some points, hopefully, and to do it in the car where all the upgrades were added to Lando's car this week, right? So he finished kind of where you'd think he would with a car that doesn't have those upgrades, because they obviously worked quite well for Lando. Great weekend for them to get some points back. Like they're ahead of Alpine. They're
tight.
4 points.
Yeah, 4 points
ahead now. Like that's huge. That's a huge weekend for them. We'll watch this really closely over the next 5 races to see where this ends up, but that's going to be a massive battle. So hopefully we see some pretty cool racing between those two teams.
What else is on the board here, Gage? Or what else haven't we hit on? I mean, we lost a lot of guys along the way in this race. Nothing of, significance. Oh my God, what a crash. But guys just having trouble kind of wrangling in that track at Singapore. But what else jumped off the page for you today?
What else did? George Russell kind of a little bit with a
weird day.
Pretty rough weekend, really, if you look at it, Dusty. He struggled this weekend where, there was a lot of talk of that second place in the constructors, and I was thinking, we're gonna just not being able to perform this weekend. It was kind of odd to see Mr. Consistency, and I guess he was due for a bad weekend. And the other thing was, I was like, wow, has Ferrari made a mistake today? I think this was their cleanest race of the season almost.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And they still didn't win it. And they started with the pole.
They still didn't win it. Yeah. They started up. I guess maybe that's their kind of thing. But I mean, I really enjoyed the battle with Charles and Checo at the end. But and Carlos just kind of a boring third, like you said. But really, they did everything right. Like I was fully anticipating them to go to slicks too early.
I was gonna say from a strategic call perspective, it was basically just do everything the rest of the field is doing, and you only had to make one stop, right? Like that's how they managed to dodge some sort of ridiculous bullet. It is true. They could have come in and put on the slicks before George Russell came in and put on the slicks and realized that it was going to be 11 seconds slower than everybody else. That would have been something they would have done, and Carlos Sainz would have finished 8th. So it's, that's a step, I guess.
I think the fact when George came in early, and luckily George Russell had I think George Russell having a bad weekend helped Ferrari. And now that I think about it, Dusty, because he was way back and he had to take a chance. So he went to slicks early and he was skating on ice. So and Ferrari goes, I guess we're going to wait, because they were just, they wanted to go to slicks and to see if they could do something. And it didn't happen. Thank God for George Russell for Ferrari.
Well, where George Russell sits right now, here's the current driver standings after Singapore. Max, 341, over 100-point lead. Charles Leclerc, 237 in second. Checo, 235 in third. 2 points separating the battle for second. George Russell, 203 points. Carlos Sainz, 202 points. 1 point separating the battle for fourth right now. And then Lewis Hamilton is just comfortably sitting in sixth. He's 170 points back. He would need Russell and Sainz to DNF here at some point, and he had to finish 1, 2, or 3 to kind of really put himself back into that conversation, but could still find his way into the mix for that battle for fourth spot. So there's still a lot of things to be determined here as we work our way. Up next is Japan. We'll get to trivia in a second. Gager, it's Sunday. I'm assuming you haven't flipped the page to Japan just yet. You've got a lot of different Singapore helmet cams to watch, obviously, still. But the thing that's exciting is that's another race coming up here right away.
Oh, yeah. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is the Aston Martin, like having Vettel finish in the points, Stroll in the points, they leapfrog 2 spots, right? They're ahead of Haas and AlphaTauri.
You're not going to see them drop double points very often.
Like, that's a huge day that's for them, it's the Constructors Championship is pretty cool because there's, I mean, obviously Red Bull's way ahead, but there's little pockets maybe 2-3 teams that are all battling for positions here. So although I think Max is going to wrap this up pretty soon, there's still a lot to watch with these constructors championships and see how teams react and how that's going to sort itself out by the end of the year.
All right, let's get into your Mobile One Mr. Lube trivia to wrap up today. Once again, just slide into my DMs on Twitter at NielsenTSN1260. Give us the correct answer. If you get it correct, you go into a draw. We draw one name each week, and you will win a Mobile One racing hat and a gift certificate from Mr. Lube up to $137.98, which is a premium synthetic oil change with that Mobile One oil. Let's go with this. Since they brought back the Singapore Grand Prix, moved it to Marina Bay in 2008. Of course, no race the last couple of years. But since the Singapore Grand Prix was brought back, who has won the most races? Kind of a two-horse race here, but who has won the most times at Marina Bay with the Singapore Grand Prix? All you have to do, once again, slide into my DMs on Twitter at NielsenTSN1260 with the answer. If you get it correct, you go into that draw. Best of luck to everybody. And, make sure if you're looking to get an oil change, to do it nice and quick and tight at Mr. Lube's same-day oil change and tire service. Well, I'm excited we got another one right away, buddy. In fact, 4 races in October, right? Race,
yeah.
off week, race. So lots of pit stop pals.
Awesome. I love it. It was nice to have a race weekend again, Dusty. It was early though to get up to the qualifying.
Like we haven't had a race in 5 months. Like every time it's off for a week, we're like, God, thank God there's another race.
Oh, jeez. It was, but you know what? It was funny because I was like, God, is this going to be a good race? You know, I didn't really, but I was thoroughly entertained. Another awesome result. Good for Checo. It puts a smile on my face to see him win another one. Off to Japan. This will be real cool. See what Yuki Tsunoda signed another year for AlphaTauri, right? So it'll be cool to see him in his home race. Love him on the radio. God, he is radio gold. We got to get him on the Pit Stop Pals.
That would be amazing. Come on and you can say whatever you want on this podcast, so you don't have to worry about that. Gager, we'll talk to you. I was going to say in Japan or from Japan, but I guess we'll talk to you next week about Japan. Let's do that. I'm sure there's a dog pissing on your leg somewhere right now. So
one day maybe we will, Dusty.
Wouldn't that be something? Hey, next week in the Pit Stop Pals, we'll talk to you from Japan. Thanks for joining us live from Singapore. See you later, buddy.
All right.